He wasn't running against Donald Trump. But for her to be here, I thought that was a nice gesture.
One of the most exclusive tickets for the inauguration was last night. It was really hard to get tickets for a lot of people in Washington, D.C., because I know people who were trying to scramble and get some. It was over at Union Station, which is the Amtrak hub, just about a mile from where we're sitting right now. Here's some of Donald Trump. He addressed the crowd, recapped parts of the election and election night, and looked forward to perhaps the rain later today.
They predicted that this would be the greatest loss in political history, not even modern political history. I outworked everybody. I think I outworked anybody who ever ran for office. They canceled their fireworks 2 weeks out. If you're going to lose, you don't want fireworks, right? Come here, Kellyanne. Wow. There is no den she will not go into. When my men are petrified to go on a certain network, I say, Kellyanne, would you do it? Absolutely, no problem. Then she gets on and she just destroys them. So anyway, thank you, baby. Thank you. Tomorrow we have a speech, probably around 12 o'clock. It may rain, it may not rain. I don't care. Doesn't matter. I mean, the truth is, if it really pours, that's okay, because people will realize it's my real hair, and that's okay. It's okay. We are going to make America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
He is so funny. Donald Trump will be Donald Trump, and that's what Corey Lewandowski always told him. Don't change who you are.
Right. People love you. Don't change anything. And last night you saw him. He was looking to the future. He was recapping the past, had some axes to grind. Oh, Kellyanne's in a fantastic dress. Come on up here. She's going to be on our show, by the way.
Whatever's on his mind, right?
Well, I know. Especially, I thought the speech at the Lincoln Memorial was really good. Yeah. And I thought that was a fun night that somebody hosted. It reminds me of something he does on a regular basis because he does a lot of fundraisers for people. It reminded me of a typical fundraiser when there are no cameras around, and a lot of people say, wow, you know, it should have been more formal, prepared the remarks, been more presidential. That wasn't the format of the night. This was a way to salute, thank, and get ready and set the table for today. I think today is going to be a very, it's going to be full of news-making lines. I think it's going to set the tone. One thing is pretty clear. He was lauded the way the content of the speech he made after winning. I think this address today will be looked at the same way.
I would look for soaring rhetoric today at the west face of the Capitol. Last night, though, it was all about bringing the country together after a very long campaign.
So this journey began 18 months ago. I had something to do with it, but you had much more to do with it than I did. I'm the messenger. I'm just the messenger. And we were tired, and I love you. Believe me, I love you. We all got tired of seeing what was happening. And we wanted change, but we wanted real change. But we're going to make America great for all of our people, everybody throughout our country. That includes the inner cities, that includes everybody. And we're going to do a special job. On the campaign, I called it the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. Well, you're not forgotten anymore, that I can tell you. I will see you tomorrow, and I'm going to be cheering you on. You're going to cheer me on, but I'm going to be cheering you on because what we've done is so special. All over the world they're talking about it, all over the world. And I love you folks, and we're going to work together, and we are going to make America great again, and I'll add, greater than ever before.
And there is a tremendous sense of positivity in the streets because of Donald Trump. There are so many people, I don't know the tourist interview, from across the country that are here today.
I know, it's amazing. People
Arkansas, Texas, Indiana.
Lots of Californians I met last night.
Yeah.
From Florida.
I talked to so many people. I went up to Capitol Hill, had lunch with my daughter yesterday. I got two things. Number one, hey, Peter. That was funny. And number two was, hey, how's your throat? My throat is better today. I had it all fixed up just for the history in the making, less than 6 hours from right now.
Meanwhile, there were protests out there yesterday.
I was going to say a lot of people wound up with sore throats because they were screaming.
Probably so. Yeah, we ran into a few protesters last night, but it was really bad in some areas. Griff Jenkins was affected by it. You saw Pete was out in the middle of all of that, people throwing things at them. Geraldo almost got decked with an egg last night.
Right. Yesterday, an example of how bad it is, how inappropriate it became. Here's Griff Jenkins with a very special and unique protester.
In fact, this young man, you were participating in the fire. What's your name?
My name's Connor, and I actually kind of started this fire.
So why'd you start that fire, Carter?
It's Connor.
Sorry, why'd you start that fire?
Because I felt like it, and because I'm just saying our president.
Okay, well, there you have it.
Yeah, that summarizes it.
Right, a future juvenile delinquent. Maybe he's getting an earlier start.
Well, you know what? It's his opinion. It doesn't seem appropriate. Certainly not unifying.
Right. It's hard to see the other side of thinking that is so ridiculous and inappropriate. Can you imagine how embarrassed any parent who might be sober or might be hungover
well,
right now?
That's there with his parents.
That's the point.
Brian.
Exactly.
It's in the middle of the night. He should be sleeping probably, but he's up starting fires at a protest. I'm sure his parents are there with him.
And what that is right there is there was, the deplorables during the campaign. Those were people who supported Trump. There was a deplorables ball last night over at the National Press Club about 3/4 of a mile from where we're sitting right here. And you had the pro-Trump people going in, the anti-Trump people outside trying to cause some problems. There was some pepper spray, a little melee, but nonetheless, for the most part, it was a successful event. And I'm sure the protesters would say they got their word out as well because we sent Pete Hegseth in and, they yelled at him.
Yeah, Donald Trump saying, give me a chance.
Yeah.
Just wait a few years. Let me get things rolling before you start acting like this. Let me prove myself.
Right. Meanwhile, coming up shortly, Kellyanne Conway's going to be joining us in about 50 minutes. She has a lot to do, but she'll be coming here and talking to us right before the big inaugural when she'll officially get her job. And I just got one thing I got to ask you. I mean, it's got to be a little discouraging that Congress seems to be slow-walking the Senate, seems to be slow-walking a lot of these nominees. It's so important to get the bulk of your team in place, and they're just not pushing them forward. They put the hearing dates up, but they can't get the votes.
Well, and here's the thing. Yesterday we read that apparently 3 of the president-elect's picks would be confirmed by the Senate by the end of the day. It looks like that is not going to happen.
Kelly, Madison, Pompeo.
Which one of those may drop out? Stay tuned. We'll find out later on.
And it might be just a numbers thing because there were 7 that were confirmed on the day that President Obama was in office.
Yep.
There were 7 when George W. Bush was
There
in
were
office.
3 with Bill Clinton.
So they don't want anyone to get 3. I mean, Donald Trump to get 3. They want 2 or fewer.
So that could be some breaking news a little later on today.
All right, the Secret Service keeping D.C. on lockdown. We know it took us a long time to get here.
It did.
So they're doing a lot to keep the president and all of us safe.
And Peter Ducey is live along the National Mall with the inauguration security preps. Peter.
And there has been a little bit of a delay, but we just watched as TSA agents fanned out and put on blue latex gloves. They are about to let the first visitors to the next president's inauguration onto the National Mall. We're going to try to talk to the first person through the gate next. Got the red, white, blue, flying high on the car. Simple white tattoo on the left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag and the back it says USA. He won't buy nothing that he can't fit. Tell me need 40 and the cracks the rich. He ain't prejudice. He's just made in America.
Good morning. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Some quick headlines to bring you. In just a few hours, a notorious drug lord El Chapo Guzman will face a judge in New York City. He arrived in the United States from Mexico last night. He faces charges in 6 states and life in prison. President Obama using his final hours in power, writing to Congress, slamming them for failing to close Gitmo. Well, this is final 4 terror transfers arrive in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. He released 14 prisoners in the past week alone. 41 detainees now remain at the camp. And your prayers are working. That from former President George W. Bush. He posted that online. His parents, former President George H.W. Bush and former First Lady Barbara Bush, are on the upswing. Both were hospitalized for respiratory problems, but they're getting better. We're happy to report, and we're wishing them a speedy recovery. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, guys.
That's wonderful news.
It absolutely is. All right. Meanwhile, armed and ready from the streets to the sky, Washington, D.C. on complete lockdown, bracing for any possibilities as protesters plan to disrupt the swearing in of our next commander-in-chief. That's what they would like to do, but there are a lot of people who want to stop them.
Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. Peter Ducey is live on the National Mall with a look at the security setup out there. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Ainsley. Hey, everybody. And they do have a big 8-foot-tall fence around the entire mall where all the festivities are going to be. There are 12 checkpoints that people who want to see the next president get sworn in can come through. This is one of them. It was supposed to open about 15 minutes ago. It seems like they might be letting people in any second because the TSA has all fanned out. But if you look on the other side of one of these security fences, there's a big crush of people right here, and then it looks like it extends down past this tent. There are a couple hundred people all bundled up waiting to get inside. They will go through some airport-style security here, and then they'll get in, and whoever these people are will be the first ones on the mall for Mr. Trump's inauguration, because so far the only people that we've seen here are law enforcement and vendors. And something that we just overheard on our walk down over here was vendors getting an instruction by their manager that if things get violent here, their instruction is to evacuate, basically leave whatever t-shirts or food or other merchandise they are selling behind, just abandon it, escape the grounds of the National Mall through the Sculpture Garden, and then seek shelter in one of the Smithsonian museums, which these vendors are now being told will open up in the event of some kind of a calamity on the mall. So that is something that we had not heard before, but that is something that these vendors are being told still in the dark as they wait for people to come in. Hopefully we should be able to talk to some folks here any minute by the time that the fence is open. Back to you.
Peter, just to be clear, the vendors were told to leave the T-shirts right where they were by the police or by the vendor company?
This was by the vendor company who came out and was telling a group of several dozen vendors that they have their backing. The bosses aren't going to be mad if they leave merchandise and cash behind to go and protect themselves. But it was a dire warning that these people were getting, and everybody was taking it very seriously before they headed off to their tents that are lining the mall here.
All right.
You know, when you go, nowadays, Peter, when you go anywhere, you're looking for the exits. You're always vigilant.
Yep.
See something, say something. It never used to be like that. But nowadays, if you go anywhere in a big crowd, you have to be vigilant.
You do indeed. All right. Peter, thank you very much.
All right, meanwhile, straight ahead, we probably won't be seeing another tweet like this for a very long time. Or will we? The Secret Service just confiscated our next president's smartphone. Is that true? Ed Henry here on that story. Why is he smiling about that?
And Democrats are making it their mission to disrupt the peaceful transition of power. So will Trump be able to overcome this opposition? A debate that you won't see anywhere else.
Start walking now. All right, just hours left until our next president takes the oath of office. We'll be covering it here live. And the list of those boycotting the inauguration nearing about 70 as Democrats stick with the mission to disrupt the peaceful transition of power, perhaps. So will Donald Trump be able to overcome this opposition when it comes to doing work?
Let's have a fair and balanced debate right now. We've got a former financial intel analyst for the U.S. Treasury Department and former State Department press officer, Morgan Ortegas, and Fox News contributor, Richard Fowler. Richard, good morning to you. Let's start with you. Richard, so almost 70 Democrats say they're not going to do it for a variety of reasons. Isn't that, you know, this is the day we're all supposed to be together. It's one thing if you don't think the guy's legitimate, but if it's just like, yeah, I didn't like the way he talked to people.
The one day, right?
The one day. Isn't this the one day everybody should be on the same page?
No, I think, to some extent, I think you're right. I think that everybody should be together. I think what we've seen, though, from the Trump administration is not really trying to work across the aisle with Democrats. And
they haven't even started.
No, wait a minute. I'll give you an example because I did some research last night. This is the first president not to have a Democrat in his cabinet or somebody from the opposing party in his cabinet. Barack Obama had 2 Republicans in his cabinet. George W. Bush had Mandela in his cabinet, transportation secretary. Clinton had Republicans in his cabinet. Donald Trump has not shown any willingness to work across the aisle. Put a Democrat in the cabinet.
How can
Well,
you
he's
say
had Mike
that?
Pence has gone to the Hill almost every other day, I think, and he met with Democratic leaders a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think beyond that, and the whole ideal when a president wins the inauguration, that means the other party is not in power. The olive branch is always offering somebody a cabinet position to say, I'm willing to work with you guys. I quote unquote believe in bipartisanship.
Yeah, but you know what, Richard? According to a lot of Republicans, Donald Trump was a Democrat back in the day, so he would qualify.
I guess.
Well, just because, I mean, if you look at, but he's not putting in career politicians for the most part into these positions. If you look at Steve Mnuchin, Wilbur Ross, especially the generals, I don't think you can call all the generals that he's put in Republicans. They're nonpartisans who have spent 30, 40 years of their lives serving government. So I actually think it's the opposite. I think he has definitely put in a few members of Congress, but he's put in more businessmen and women and generals instead of career politicians into the office. So
And
let him get inaugurated at noon today, and let's give him a chance.
He has been meeting at Trump Tower with a lot of Democrats, though.
Absolutely.
So he's listening to their opinions. But you think he's tone deaf, especially when it comes to the discussion of race.
Yeah,
Why is that?
Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna. I don't think Donald Trump is a racist at all. Right? I think that there are people. I mean, I think people on both sides of the aisle that we have issues with. But I do feel as though him putting an olive branch out to the African American community beyond just meeting with a couple of celebrities or meeting with Steve Harvey. Go to Detroit. Go to Chicago. Have a town hall. Have a conversation. If you really want to make America great again and you want to fix America's inner cities, then since being elected president, go there. Visit.
We went through he's rolling out a major inner city program, had a major event yesterday, and Michael Cohen was there, was one of his key aides, and with Jim Brown heading it up, which has already been in existence for 20 years. But real quick, having said all this symbolism aside, wouldn't matter what happened, whether he hired, do you think they're going to be able to work together?
I hope they are. I mean, here's the thing. I think Donald Trump will find Democrats that will vote for an infrastructure bill. He has proposed $1 trillion infrastructure bill. I've said it over and over again. His problem won't be Democrats on this. His problem is going to be the fiscal hawk Republicans who are not willing to pass $1 trillion infrastructure bill. I think it's a great idea. Government spending, I believe, is great. Investing in America's people is great. He's going to have a problem with conservative Republicans on the House who don't want to run up the quote-unquote deficit.
Well, 2 things. It's not just the infrastructure bill. If you look at 2018, the number of Senate Democrats that are up, that are in states that went for Trump, is very high. I mean, if all goes well, the 2018 race, congressional races look positive. So I actually think, and most presidencies, the first 2 years is really the opportunity to get something big done. You've seen that in both Bush and Obama presidencies. And on top of that, when you need to get 60 votes in the Senate for some of the major tax reform bills, for sequestration, it's actually favorable odds for him.
And for repeal and replace. You got to replace it with 60 votes.
And I mean,
so if you're going to do that, then it's a good thing to be in the position where you have so many Senate Democrats that, quite frankly, are worried about their 2018 races. So it's a positive landscape for him. And not.
I think he's still going to require him doing some work across the aisle. He's going to need 4 or 5 Democrats that he could turn to.
I think he wants to deal with Democrats.
Which President Obama did not do. I mean, even Democrats have criticized President Obama never reached
It's true.
It's not true. I mean, when he passed the stimulus package,
let's talk about
Susan Collins to try to get it done, who's a Maine Republican, and thanks to her, we got the stimulus package.
Well, that was 1 in 8 years. So
sure.
There you go.
What about the Affordable Care Act? Oh, yeah,
Republicans they were willing to work with her.
All right, Richard, great debate. Morgan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're about to find out.
All right. Meanwhile, next up on Inauguration Day, Democrats have been freaking out about this for more than a year, asking what will happen when Donald Trump gets the nuclear codes. Well, today, President-elect Donald Trump becomes president, and he gets the nuclear codes. Carl Cameron's going to figure out what happens next. Coming up.
And why did the Secret Service just confiscate the president-elect's smartphone? Ed Henry has all the details next.
Painful.
A life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more.
It's going to take about 5 hours. It's going to take about 5 hours to switch out one family and put another family in. That would be a video I would love to see. And, man, those guys and those women, whoever's doing it, underappreciated it almost they should be working in a pit crew.
Well,
there is a new man in town
Yeah.
who moves in there tonight. And when I interviewed him the other day, he said they're going to have a big slumber party tonight. It's a big tradition for
That's great.
presidents to invite all of their kids and
Right.
grandkids to spend the night in the White House for the very first time.
Well, fantastic. So the Obamas are officially out. I think all they've got right now, because they've moved all their stuff to Calorama, is they've got toothbrushes and they had a bed they slept on. You can put it on their clothes, go up to the Capitol, and then go on vacation.
Just like we got at the Hyatt. When I walked in the Hyatt, we got toothbrushes and toothpaste.
It's a.
You have to actually.
So now you're revealing where we're staying.
Right. Well, let's say hypothetically. Let's say if we were at the Hyatt. I have news for you. Everybody knows we're there.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, 1 point of reference. You are watching a 100% caffeine-free telecast. Because it was because of the security sweep, they still have not made the coffee here. I just checked a second ago. There's no coffee. We hope to have coffee and caffeine within the next half hour.
I had an apple in my pocketbook.
That's
They
great.
took the apple. They said you're not allowed to bring food in here.
Okay, great.
Really? Maybe
Yeah.
I was just hungry because that's a new rule.
People were camping out there. They want to be the first ones
Sure.
in. One lady last night that I met at the restaurant said she's wearing long johns. She went and bought long johns because they were leaving the restaurant to go camp out here to get a front row seat.
Well, they kept the apple. It's all part of things you can and cannot bring in. It's all part of the security. Ed Henry is over yonder behind us. And Ed,
good to see you.
You have seen a lot of security in your day, but I'm sure this rivals anything you've ever seen.
It certainly does, and Fox News has just obtained the actual threat assessment from the Department of Homeland Security. It's a 10-page document that lists all of the big picture threats that they're worried about, from Al-Qaeda, obviously, to ISIS, and all kinds of groups in between. The big picture headline here is they say inside the administration that there is no specific credible threat to this inaugural, but they are obviously, they have an intense security footprint. As you see from your vantage point, I can see it here from the west front of the Capitol. Just behind me, obviously, is where Donald J. Trump will be sworn in just around noon Eastern time. But I will note that this threat assessment adds that they are still very concerned about the so-called lone wolf, what we saw in Germany with the truck bomber, that kind of situation. Nobody wants to alarm the public, but these law enforcement officials want to put out these assessments to make sure everyone knows that they are very much on guard, guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. If anyone didn't think there was a threat out there, they haven't walked around. It's good to know there's nothing specific, but I always heard they're really concerned about the truck. After what they saw what happened in Nice, France, they're concerned about the vehicle, which I don't know how you stop trucks on streets.
Well, we saw tour buses lined up in the vicinity around the Capitol. 2, 3, 4 deep, a mix of tour buses and cement trucks. When we were coming in with our crew this morning about 3:30 a.m. Eastern time, all in almost every block ringing in the Capitol, 3, 4 buses and trucks deep. That is obviously one of many defensive measures they have in place. There's all kinds of other measures we can't see and other measures we wouldn't want to talk about anyway.
Sure.
All right, Ed Henry, live for us this morning. Thank you, Ed. And to your
Good to
point,
see you.
Brian, when we were coming in, we had to walk a long way.
We did.
So I think in that situation, it's probably because if someone did try to get through with a van or a truck, they want enough time to stop him before he can even get close to where the president will be.
They've got, to Ed's point, they've got buses, they've got sand trucks, they've got all sorts of
Cement
gigantic
barriers, I saw those.
on all of the streets, and then they've got the Iron Curtain. It's the 10-foot tall iron fence, steel fence. Steel or iron fence. I didn't do a metallurgic test on it.
It's a fence.
And then you've got the Jersey barriers. So they've got all sorts of protection. And in addition to the uniformed officers, I was walking around yesterday throughout the parade grounds.
Did you hear the helicopter?
There are, that's right, Park Service right there. There are hundreds of undercover cops who are going to mix in with the people who are here just to make sure everything goes according to schedule.
One of the most painful things for Barack Obama in 2009 was when he was senator to become president, they took away his BlackBerry. And they said, hey, and he's like, listen, I need it. That's how I keep in touch with people. So it gave him like a small a BlackBerry that was just, you can only talk to a certain amount of people with all these restrictions, and it was a big story back then.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, now it's a bigger story, don't you think, now that Donald Trump has to give up his iPhone?
Especially after everything that we've been talking about over the last few years with Hillary Clinton and her devices and her issues. So, yeah, he had to give up his Android, and they're replacing it. Secret Service replaced it with a secured, encrypted device that was approved by
Right.
the Secret Service so that you can't hack into it.
And see, that's just it. If you have an unprotected non-Secret Service device, somebody could hack into it. And they just don't want Donald Trump walking around with a cell phone in his pocket where, his friends in the Kremlin can just tap in and listen. What's he saying? Or turn on the camera or any of that other stuff.
Well, the problem is your cell phone is your personal thing. Does he get now? He has to go out and get a new case. That's a pain in the neck, especially with all the things he has to do. Plus, is he like us? Do you have a little thing on the back of the cell phone for his credit cards? Does he have to run and get another one of those pocket things?
He's going to have to save all of his numbers because he's notorious for hearing someone on TV talk about him or talk about a story, and he'll pick up the phone and call them immediately.
And he can
like
still
the
do
LL
that.
Bean lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to have to save his numbers. Hopefully they'll be
I don't know if they're going to let him. Will they let him?
I don't know.
Oh, he's the president.
Well, we're going to
You know what? Even if they don't, all he has to do is call someone and say, get Brian Kilmeade on the phone. They'll have your number immediately.
He's not going to stop tweeting. I just have a feeling.
No,
of course,
he
we'll
says he
know
won't.
at noon today.
It's access to 50 million people. Why would he?
That's right. All right. Speaking of a lot of people are going to be here on the mall. 1 million, they're suggesting, Janice Dean, and a lot of those people, as of noon, will be wet.
I know. You know that if I could change the weather, it would be sunshine and lollipops for everyone. And even the president-elect yesterday was talking about the fact that if it rains, people will know that his hair is for real. So even the president-elect is getting in on the weather forecast. So here's what I can tell you. We are expecting rain. We might be able to push it a little bit further into the timeline, like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. But you know what? We're not doing so badly because when it comes to weather extremes on Inauguration Day, it was 7 degrees on 1985. That was when Ronald Reagan was sworn in. The warmest was also when Ronald Reagan was sworn in 1981 at 55 degrees. 48 is going to be our high today, and we're going to get nowhere near where we had the most rain, which was 1.77 inches. That was Franklin D. Roosevelt. And the most snow was 9 inches of snow. So no blizzard, no snow. That's the good news. But you can see on the radar we've got that rain creeping in around 11 a.m., 12 p.m., and then it's going to last probably until around 2 and 3, then cloudy skies for the rest of the day. It's not going to be a washout, but the good news is they are letting us in with umbrellas. As long as they're less than 18 inches and they're not pointy, you can bring your umbrellas if you're coming down to the mall or the parade today. So that's the good news. They did that yesterday, which I think we've all got our umbrellas today back inside.
Right. That's right.
Of
Also,
course.
a lot of the people who wind up with the tickets for the seats back there are being issued ponchos as well. Because it would be crazy if you had 900,000 people with umbrellas over you. Nobody would see anything.
Yeah, it'd be a good day to make ponchos. And then you try to upgrade
If you had the
sale.
poncho deal.
How would you like pockets?
There you go.
Pocket ponchos probably go double the price. Right?
Oh, my gosh. Your delivery is so funny. You remind me of Seinfeld. The pocket, the poncho. I can't do it, but you can.
I have no idea.
All right, let's hand it over to Heather, who has some headlines, starting with the Fox News Alert.
I certainly do. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all off to a great day. Some breaking news coming in from overnight. At least 5 survivors have been found alive 48 hours after a monster avalanche slams into an Italian ski resort. Crews digging with their bare hands to find more of those people. They've discovered 3 bodies so far. Before and after shots, take a look at this, show the horrible devastation there. Rescuers now fear for the worst for anyone who may still be alive. We'll monitor this as it develops. Back here at home, President Obama commuted the prison sentence by 3 decades, but not everything is going Chelsea Manning's way. The transgender government secrets leaker will likely lose health benefits when the soldier is dishonorably discharged from the U.S. Army. Now, that means no more hormone treatments or gender reassignment surgery. Manning is expected to appeal. And it's live from D.C. It's confirmation hearings. The Energy Secretary nominee Rick Perry and Senator Al Franken cracking some jokes on Capitol Hill. Watch this.
Did you enjoy meeting me? I hope you were as much fun on that dais as you were on your couch. Well... May I rephrase that, sir?
Please.
I'll say, may I rephrase that? Well, Perry joking.